All right, guys. I'm Chad Schilling. I don't know, I see a lot of new faces. I see some old faces. A couple of them I'm going to avoid because they'll be making faces at me during this. I've made a career in this business by being enthusiastic. I got a goofy laugh that when I've been on TV shows, they play them at Gander Mountain or Runnings or Fleet Farm, and people think that I'm in there because they hear the stupid laugh on the TV, and they're walking around the place looking for me. But when I was in the second grade, I was the only one in my class of 60 kids that said I will be a walleye fishing guide when I grow up. There's never been, I have no other options. That's, if I had to be a bookie or an accountant or something somewhere, I'd be living in a cardboard box behind a Walmart somewhere because I'm just not good at anything else. And, I started right away. I was 13 years old. A guy got in an accident, a friend of mine, and they needed a bait shop boy. Well, that summer I was the bait shop boy, and I ran rental boats at Jed's Landing in Mobridge, South Dakota. Halfway through the year, we got a big group of fishermen come in, and me and my boss, we got all the boats lined up, got everybody sent out on their way, and part of my pay was $3 an hour, but I got to use a rental boat whenever I wanted, and I had that thing. Every check I got went back into that rental boat, which will be something I'll tell you later, how not to spend money when you're a guide, but that was my first guide job because we got everybody out. He said, grab a pop, I'll grab a coffee, we'll sit down. And in walks one of the biggest human beings, and when you're 13, they're bigger than that, but he was a center for the Detroit Lions. He was the backup center, and his buddy. And my boss, without blinking an eye, turned and said, get your boat ready. You got these two guys today. I had a 16-foot Alaskan with a 25-horse motor, and as we're walking out, my boss goes, hey, you guys want to pay up and be in the tournament? There was like 75 people there, and like I didn't have enough pressure on a 13-year-old kid when I was a professional football player in my boat. He puts me in a tournament too. So not many of you guys probably been around the Mobridge area, but I couldn't get past the bridge because this man sitting in the front of my boat was like, the water was running over the sides already. I had to run around the rail to get around him. That's how big he was. In my head today, I realize he probably wasn't that big because when you grow up things, but this story's way better if he's as big as I tell you he was. So we won that day. We won the tournament that day because I couldn't go nowhere. I had a flasher. I didn't have nothing fancy on my boat. But at the end of the day, my boss grabs them two guys and he said, hey, sorry about that. It was a miscommunication. I will have another boat for you tomorrow. And that guy goes, I've never beat anybody up outside the football field, but if you put me in a different boat tomorrow, we're going to have trouble. And I'm fishing with Chad. And the guy goes, I've never seen a kid that excited. Well, I can't tell you I've lost any of that. The thing is about me fishing, and I was talking to some guys about it. A couple of years ago, I took a break from the professional walleye tour because my daughter and my son were growing up. And when I'd leave, I had this gut like, oh, I shouldn't be going. I should be watching their baseball games and their softball games. And so it kind of took away a lot of the fun. The last 2 years I did travel on the tour. I mean, that's been another passion of mine, but I do things that are fun, and when I was missing that and not getting to see my kids grow up, I said, hey, we'll take 3-4 years, that professional walleye deal will be there, and I still get to guide every day, so it's not like I really took a big kick. I get to go fishing every day anyway, so that'll get us into what I'm talking about. And this whole thing, when Pat called me, I'm not the guy to be speaking. If I talk to you guys over in the bar, one-on-one, couple of us, I do good. In a boat, 6 guys, I got this. Standing here and acting like I'm somebody to listen to it's out of my league, but we'll try it. We'll give it a shot. But do me a favor and do everybody in here a favor. If you're doing guiding because you failed at everything else in life and it's the only thing you think maybe you can still make a buck, go sell shoes somewhere. Because fishing's not, I don't want to spend all year working in an office and say, hey, I think I'm going to go fishing and get some guy who's miserable doing what they're doing. You don't have to be goofy like me. That's a whole nother deal. You see me in a boat, I have so much fun. In them big tournaments, I got a couple times guys didn't think I was in it because I was playing my music too loud. But if it isn't fun for me, I don't do a good job at it, so that's what I do. I do things that are fun. And if you're miserable out fishing, man, find something else and save all the other guides because we get a black eye. That's one thing bad about it. If you go and ruin somebody's vacation, they're like, I don't ever want to hire a guide again. And I get that a lot. Guys say, I went with 2 guides and I had a miserable trip. It's not about us when we go fishing. And that's what they were saying, what Lance just won that deal for. Teaching somebody something, watching somebody catch a fish. I took the backup quarterback for Aaron Rodgers, the year that Green Bay cut him. I honestly thought the man was hurt in an ice shack. He was screaming so loud. He caught a 14-inch walleye. And I'm like, man, really? You played in the NFL? And he goes, that's easy. This stuff's exciting. And so that's the cool stuff we get to give people. Not everybody reacts the same way. Some of them don't even smile. You got to talk to me. Some of them don't talk, but I'd never shut up. So I talk their ears off and I get them talking. But if you can get people's excitement up, there's nothing better than what we do. I'm going to give you some key points on how I do what I do. There's no Bible to this. My dad's been a guide for 35 years, and half of the stuff I'm going to tell you today is the opposite of what he does, and it works for him, but he does have fun. That is the key thing to all of it. You're not going to an insurance seminar to listen to Bob. You're going to have fun, and and my first deal is attitude is everything. If you go in with a bad attitude, it's hard to have somebody come out of their day with a good attitude. So start out, have a good attitude. I go 60, 70 days in a row. I ain't going to lie. I get up and I got to find a new way to make it exciting. But there's so many new ways to catch fish and new things to try. Go try a little bit of them. Go have fun. Make it an exciting day. Fishing's a bonus. The catching the fish is a bonus. If you can have fun out there, it's going to be a great day. One of my mentors, Steve Dockin, from back in the Pierre area, said, you're not a good guide until you don't catch fish and everybody wants to fish with you and you've had a great day. So that's a lot of good words there. If you can go have people love their day and never catch a fish, then you've accomplished guiding. Then you've done what I try to tell my people I want to be like. So one of my lines I tell all my pheasant hunters and my fishermen every day, try to have as much fun as I do today. If you can do that out there, we're going to have a good day, because I love this crap, man. I do. There's not much more that motivates me than getting out and getting it done. Getting ready. The 60 days of fishing's easy. It's getting your crap ready every day and putting it away at night. That's the stuff that wears on you, but it's part of the game, and you get 8 hours to go enjoy the day and catch fish, so you got to look at them parts. So something that helps with that, and this is just stuff I've learned. I worked at Sunset Lodge. We had 20 guides a day. The guys that were out there complaining about the other anglers, oh, these guys just moved in on me, that never works, guys. It eats at you. If you bring that out into the whole thing, it's not going to be good at the end of the day. If you see another guide go over a spot, guess what? 99% chance he didn't do that to follow you, even though it looks like it some days. And who cares? That's the whole thing. It's not that big a deal. If you're good enough, you'll move somewhere else and catch them. And if you don't catch them, you'll go there and have fun anyway, and nobody's that upset, and nobody has to listen to guides complain. But if I have to hear about guides, I live in a casket, so it's a whole different world. I realize that. I've been around guides all over. People will fly up to me to tell me where they just caught a 15-incher, and I've caught 40, but that's how it is in our area. People are friendly, they're open, but a lot of that starts from being honest and open to them and not being a jerk. I mean, if you got people screaming at you and stuff, it's hard to get along with them later on when you want to do something for them. So it's just keeping a good attitude. And if keeping a good attitude means you only get to fish by yourself, there's some good guides down in Pierre. They absolutely won't fish by nobody. They don't yell at anybody, but they will run miles to get to where they're in their happy place, I guess, as Happy Gilmore would tell us. So do that. Do whatever keeps you happy. And then blow-ups on the water give nobody a good... I went with a guide and he screamed at everybody all day. Holy God. I had a good sponsor a few years ago, and he built me a lot of tackle, and I had some customers that fished with him, and they're like, wow, you're different. You sell his products, but he screams at everybody. And I was like, what? And I didn't really believe it. Well, then I heard it again. I've never used that man's products again, and they're good products. But I can't promote a guy that's going to be out there giving the rest of us a black eye. There's too many good guides. It takes one or two to make us all look like crap. So complaining about weather, complaining about your equipment never helps you with sponsors and stuff like that, but it just doesn't do you any good out there. So, I mean, keep it to a minimum. My dad breaks all them rules I just told you. And it still works for him, but he's real old, and most of his customers are old, so we'll worry about that generation down the line. So any of you guys know my dad, you'll laugh, and you'll get it anyway. So, and like I said before, most of the people you take fishing, they get to do this once a year, once or twice a year. A lot of the clients, They work miserable jobs. They make a ton of money, and they have all the money in the world, but they want to be where you are, and to only get to do it with a couple times a year. When I recommend guides, I don't recommend probably the best fishermen. When I recommend guys to go, say, Green Bay, go to Minnesota, I recommend the most fun people I know and the people I want to spend the day with in the boat. And what's weird is when you're having fun, you catch fish anyway, so that's just the way it should work. So there's our first one. We're going to get over attitude is everything. Be knowledgeable. And that's, my dad breaks that all the time, never mind. But people ask a lot of questions now. I mean, you get in the boat and they want to know, we talked about that at the Mercury stuff, they want to ask you questions. Man, everybody's Dr. Google now. Get on your phone. These young guys, they kill us at this. They are so smart. And that's the second part of it. Don't make crap up. Like when somebody asks you something, it happened to me last year. I didn't think I was telling them the wrong stuff on my 219 Lund, but 2 seconds later, this kid goes, well, that's not true. It's got a 63.2. And I was like, how the heck? But he had it on his phone within seconds. And the older people in your boat are going to ask you questions, but they're going to fact check you. So if you don't know, tell them and say, hey, we can know in a short order. But where the knowledge thing comes in is a lot of times is the history of your area and stuff like that. I live in an area that's got pretty good history on the Lewis and Clark Trail and stuff like that. And man, the older generation that we do guide, they love that stuff. I mean, you can't tell them enough. They'll just stop and be staring you in the eyes trying to learn. And a lot of the younger guys, they're like, it's all about fishing. It's not about fishing, guys. It is. That's what they hired you for. But man, do they love to learn and hear neat stuff about what we have in our area of a cask. I mean, there's nothing out there. You can look for miles. And if you see a tree on it, I can tell them that was the old town of LeBeau. Holy cow, they can't believe there was actually a town there at one time, and they love that stuff. So it's the stuff you add to their trip that they wouldn't get if they went and didn't hire a guide. Where I fish, 90% of people can catch fish because it's an easy place to fish. The extra things I give them, the Lewis and Clark Trail, the town of LeBeau, the history of the biggest marijuana bust in South Dakota landed right in front of a Casca there. Guys don't know that. And it all happened right in that little area, and it's stuff that keeps the day going and keeps it interesting. So that part of being knowledgeable isn't what everybody probably expects to hear. I don't have to tell you, everyone can fish. Anymore, you can get on YouTube and learn half the techniques out there. But being knowledgeable about the area you're in and the history is pretty huge. That going back, be knowledgeable on fishing. You do have some customers they're there to learn only, and then you can switch your day up and teach them new techniques. The coolest things out there are coming. It seems like the industry's changing so fast. And there's where my passion goes nuts. That's the coolest thing about walleye fishing. We go out and we pitch jigs in the spring, and then about the time I'm getting, kind of want to go cruising and dragging stuff, we do that for a little bit. Then you're pulling cranks. Switch it up, make it fun. My dad will absolutely pull a bottom bouncer from spring to fall, and I don't know how people want to go with him. And some of them have been going with him for 40 years. But that isn't this new generation. We got to keep their attention. And honestly, you got to keep my attention. I'll pull a bottom bouncer for 3-4 weeks, but then I want to throw a jig and wrap, and I want to throw a shiver minnow and do stuff that keeps you engaged and excited, and that'll feed into the people. So the knowledge on the new tips and techniques, it's not the most important thing, but it is awful handy to know. My dad didn't know they even developed a shiver minnow until about last year. So do your best to be on fish, and that part is important. You do want to catch fish, but having a good connection, like a network, is really important, and that's part of the knowledge part of it too. Be careful with that. Is probably the hardest thing in all of fishing. My time on the tour, I did 10 years out there, having the right network and the groups to work with. It's the part that can really ruin your day. If you go out on the water and some guy told you, I've been catching them here for 3 weeks, and you show up there and that guy's fishing 25 miles away, it puts you in a bad attitude. I mean, right away I get a dirty diaper if somebody's lying to me about that kind of stuff, because I won't lie to you. That's one thing on the professional tour, on guiding. Guys will come up to me and say, I'm staying at your competitors. Can I get some information? I'll tell you what, I'd love you to stay with me, but yeah, I'm going to tell you. And if I can't tell you, that's why I say I can't tell you. I'm in a tournament tomorrow. Call me tomorrow night and I'll let you know what I did. But keep your network smaller. People always want to branch out. Then you're just leaving yourself open to more of the guys that are going to provide you with that dirty diaper that ruins your day anyway when you get out there. So, but a good network, man, I have one back home. And one way you know you have a good network of guys is when they call you and tell you what they did before they ask you what you did. And that doesn't happen very often. Guys always, how'd you do today? Where'd you get them? When they hit you with 25 questions and they're like, all right, hey, I got to go, you probably aren't dealing with the best network of guys. If they want to call you and tell you how they did, and it just makes life easy. If I'll have a tough day, I call 4 guys. I know where I'm going the next day. I'm dialed in. I only have to make 4 phone calls. If I have to reach beyond that, guess what? They're not biting. I better go come up with some good stories the next day and make it a fun day. So, all the part, and another big part of I'm going to jump around, guys. If you know me, that's how I am. But conservation, that's been a big part of it too. But the knowledge about the conservation. There's so much in my area. The couple of the guys I've been talking to, our big deal right now is we're growing big fish. I don't have to be knowledgeable about telling them, it's better if I give them some stats on how many walleyes a big fish returns to our system. I'll tell them, hey, that's more fish than I can kill in the next 2 years. One big walleye, if we let her go. I have nobody arguing with me about killing a big fish to put on the table. If somebody wants to put one on the wall, heck yeah, let's take a trophy. I had one fish die last year, and I told the lady, she's like, I don't want it to die. And I was like, it won't. And it's floating. And I was like, yeah, but they come right back around. Well, the seagulls are eating its gills right now. I was like, okay, maybe that one ain't coming back around. But we caught a couple hundred fish, and one died, so I'm calling that a win on the year. But a little bit of knowledge on what conservation can do to the fisheries is amazing. And these people that don't fish all year, we let go so many fish over 28 to 30 inches, which don't happen on our body of water to begin with. And it happened last year, the last 2 years. And tiny bit of knowledge. I didn't even need that much. I mean, you can Google what this presentation you guys are missing to listen to my dumb butt right now. But I mean, they can tell you what them walleyes are capable of reproducing and putting back there. And no guide gets a worse reputation than when they're sitting there and they've got a whole line of big dead walleyes that everybody in the world knows. You probably could have talked to the customers and went and caught the perfect eaters and done that, and just not getting labeled as the guy who wants to be. There's going to be a few guys that are going to hire that for a while, but this new generation, that's what we're doing it for, and they see it. I mean, every grandpa, I told them last year, hey, we let that go, your grandkids are going to fish with me forever off of that one fish if you were lucky enough, and boom, that fish is back in the lake. So a little knowledge there goes a long ways too, guys, and that's just all part of being knowledgeable. You don't have to be a scientist. Obviously, I do this for a living, so you don't have to be that bright. Just have enough knowledge to spread the word and do the good things that make a guide get a better reputation to begin with. So we'll move on, and guys, if I don't move on, I'll be here all day. So I I'm trying not to laugh because I was going to give Bob a hard time on this one. Insurance. So I'm going to tell you a story. I've been with a different company for 18 years up until 3 years ago, I think, is when I switched over to Worldwide Marine. I never had a claim. They told me I was fine. I was covered on my guiding business, and everything was covered. My boats weren't covered. So in the middle of a snowstorm, or snow and rain in the spring, 4 years ago, I run pontoon boats. I run Lund pontoon boats and their big boat. I had a big crew of not so agile people. I pulled up to the dock. I tried to get everybody off. The snowstorm, wind, it's blowing like crazy. Loaded everybody up. I said, I'll tie it down at the cleaning station. I almost got to the cleaning station, and I looked at everybody shivering. I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to take you to the lodge, and I'll clean them. Would have been a lot better if I'd have shut my motor off. Ran a 200-horse motor for 15 miles, parked it in the shed. Well, of course, by then it was pretty quiet. Called my insurance agent. Yeah, you're covered for guiding, but your boat's not covered. None of your electronics are covered, and I didn't ask the right questions. Have my wife put this in here. I'm not even kissing Bob's butt. She put this in here. She's like, have somebody that knows the business. Worldwide Marine. And if you want to talk about a terrible customer, he's got a claim, and I'm terrible at it. I'm no good at it, but you're talking to a guy who's used to us. Yeah, that helps. Yeah, that helps. But deal with, and obviously a big sponsor of what we do, and he's a fisherman. Not very good at it, but he's a fisherman. But deal with a good insurance company. And I mean, that's nothing that I need to go on and on about. It's just something that's worth doing. Keep your equipment good. It doesn't have to be, I always bring up Bob Props Sr. I don't know how many, I know you younger guys probably know who he is, but you never actually met the guy. This guy guided out of a pontoon that I would have been a death, well, I know Bob wouldn't have insured it because that's what kind of condition it was in, but it ran. But he did his maintenance, his rods were always nice, his line was always kept up. It doesn't have to be a $100,000 boat, and I'm going to get to that part of this later on, but take care of it. And this is where my dad drives me nuts, because guess what? It didn't work yesterday, and I can't believe it isn't working today. He keeps thinking things will fix themselves over the year, and I got to hear about it until I finally go jump in his boat and straighten things out. And just take care of your equipment. It doesn't, I'm the worst at maintenance. But when it comes to my fishing equipment, my wife will tell you my truck looks like a bomb went off. You get in my boat, my tackle's nice, my hooks are good, my line's all straightened out. I can't find the laundry hamper. When I throw stuff at the home, I can't find it. But in my boat, it goes a long ways when you climb into somebody's boat and they ain't got 4 reels there that have been spooled off for, and we all know them guys, and most of them are really good fishermen. But when you got somebody who isn't used to seeing that, I climbed into, you guys might know Brian Nye. I climbed in, the only time I've ever been a co-angler in the professional walleye tour when it was the PWT. I climbed into his boat. His radio was hanging out of the dash. He had 27 rods that I know he never touched in that practice. They were still in a pile from guiding with bobbers tied around. We were chubbing all week. There's no way he used any rod there. And I climbed in and I looked back. I was like, this is going to be a fun day. Because I know, being a fisherman, this guy's probably, he wasn't impressing nobody with his stuff. He was going to be able to catch him. That's not how most people see it. They climb in there. They come from an office. Their life is real strict, and they want to see some organization. We're still fishermen. It doesn't have to be. I have friends that are guides that will absolutely clean their boat until 10 o'clock every night, and that's almost uncomfortable because you don't want to set nothing down in their boat. It's so spotless, but there's a happy medium there where at least show some professionalism. Don't. I have a very good friend, and Darren knows who I'm talking about. I asked him one day when I got in his boat, do we just dump the crawlers on the floor and pick them up as they crawl around? Is that where we put them? Because he was the opposite end of the real clean. But just take care of it and give them, when they first step in your boat, a little. They feel good about it. It doesn't have to be squeaky clean, but having it a little bit presentable is really big. Going to go right into another big point is don't overspend. This same guy, I just told you about that. I promise you there is very few stores in the Green Bay area that has as many shiver minnows as this guy has. And he probably uses them once a year. He has 35 rods on his rack. He's never got a sponsorship out of any of them. At the end of the year, every year, his wife's like, you make money doing this, Chad. I'm like, yeah, I do actually pretty well. His bills are right at what he makes every year. And I mean, this is an extreme. This guy, he's a bonehead. One of my best friends, love him to death, but he's a moron would be a lot nicer word. But he goes so far and above buying every inch of tackle. And he does. He has the best stuff. It looks, I'm not looking at you. I'm not, yeah. You, you know him though. Yeah, you know who he is. So guys will go out and buy $500 worth of bait, say you're on a chub bite. And it works for a tournament if you're doing well. At halftime, it don't work then. Guiding doesn't work that way, guys. You cannot, the stress level that you bring yourself, if you can't make it work at the end, puts you in that bad attitude I was talking to you about when we started this whole thing. You have to make money doing it. You don't need to have a brand new boat and a brand new Suburban every single year to impress your clients to lose money so you're in a bad mood. It just doesn't work out. If I didn't work with Lund Boats and they treat me so well, and I don't know that I deserve it, I try to bring enthusiasm to what I don't bring it. It's there. I just love what I do. But if they didn't sponsor me, I would be running a 30-year-old boat. I would keep it clean and nice, but there's no way I could afford to go buy a brand new one every year. They work with me. I get to show off new boats, and some of my crazy customers go and buy them all the time. I can't believe they do. And then they'll leave them at home and come fish with me and get screamed at by their wife the whole time they're here because they got a $100,000 boat sitting in their garage. But just, you don't have to overspend. You're not gonna win customers by, I've never heard a guy get out of a boat, that guy sucks at fishing. We didn't catch much, but man, does he got the right equipment. I'm going back with that guy. You'll never hear that. They don't care. They want, and if you're making money, you're happy, and you catch some fish on that stuff, it just doesn't get any better. So keep your spending reasonable. You do have to update stuff, and you do have to keep it nice, but you don't have to have 5 $400 jig rods in order to impress a client to get them to come back. And it happens all the time. There's a lot of guides out there that have the best equipment that couldn't catch a fish if we threw him here on the floor. Don't be that guy. I mean, and people see through it right away. So, making payments and not making money at the end of the year does not make you look forward to the next year to say, I've got to go try to make my payments because I spent so much, and you don't need it. I guided for my first year when I moved to Sunset Lodge. I was 18 years old. I bought a 17-foot Monarch. I paid $12,400 for it, and I paid for it in the first 2 months of guiding. And I mean, I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. Well, I was 18 years old. The month later, I had a brand new Warrior when I got that one paid for. Never did ever pay for a boat since until the last few years when I started working with Lund. And I never ever bought new ones, and the most expensive one, but I ran the Fisherman for a lot of years, the 2000 Fishermans and stuff like that. Buy a boat that's feasible, that you can haul some clients. I'll tell you what, me, my dad, and I got 4 other guides, we're running pontoons right now. We can haul 4 to 6 guys comfortably every day, to where my tournament boat, I put 3 people in it. I actually double my income every single day by running a pontoon that costs a third of what my tournament boat does. And guess what? I get all the time, especially from older customers, don't put me back in no boat. They like to get up, walk around, and be comfortable. Some of our best tournament boats are not the best guide boats. And I'm blessed to have them both. I got all 3, actually. I have a tiller, and I have a tournament boat, I have a 219 tournament, and I have a pontoon. And that pontoon takes up 3/4 of my guide days. And if you're getting into it just for guiding, there's a lot of money to be made. Look at those pontoons. That Lund pontoon I'm running right now performs like a boat, and man, do I make money out of that thing. When your wife is telling you you need a new pontoon, you are buying the right thing to go fishing, because that doesn't happen. Isn't it amazing?
If I didn't spend 50 days to get on the Prairie River for a jig,
Yep.
I honestly would never ever on a regular boat ever again.
Yep.
For
Yep.
casting, for jig fishing, when you're casting, for casting crankbaits, for trolling crankbaits, that's all you do. Look at a pontoon that's built for fishing.
It's amazing.
They
Yep.
run better, they're better in rough water, they're much more stable. They're amazing.
They are. They absolutely do everything we want them to do, and they do it comfortably.
You can never get sun on a pontoon, no matter how bad things get.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. And I have 5 full-time guides that work for me, and that's what we run 5, and we will take 30-plus guys with 5 boats. Well, when you're running a business like I do, and I pay my guides by the head, guess what? My return is huge when I got 5 of them in there instead of paying a little more for 2 or 3 and having to have 25 boats, or whatever you'd have to have. So and guess what? When you pick your help then and you only need 5 of them, you get darn good help. It really has, it's eliminated the guys that I use, because I would tell guys, hey, I ain't got that many guides. Well, get me boats. Yeah, well, you get what you get then when I got to put you in that. So the pontoons have changed our world a lot. And if I tell you what, I'd fish a lot of tournaments on them if I didn't have to drag them to Green Bay. Or there's the part that stinks if you got to pull them all over the country. But if you haven't looked at them, look into them. Obviously, I'm going to push Lund. They've taken such good care of me. There's a lot of good pontoons out there. I mean, there really is. And your favorite part is when you price them both, you're going to really like the price on the pontoon after you look at some new boats. So this is huge too, and this is part of that networking and stuff. Surround yourself with good people. When I worked at Sunset Lodge, I went there. I was number 17 out of 18 guides the first day I got there. A year later, I was up to number 3. My next year, I ran the book, and I got to, and you don't want a 20-year-old kid running the book, especially a cocky 20-year-old kid like me who, we had our guide meeting, and the boss said, all you guys, no one works 7 days in a row. Except you, Chad, you can go 100. Nobody, you never get tired. You're like, we want to see you get wore out. Well, that was the guy who assigned all the boats and everything, and that was me. And so I got to be with a lot of personalities. If you've been around the pier area, 17 personalities out of pier, you learn a lot fast. And that's where I grew up. I did the books. I fired 2 of the biggest names in that country because I sat and watched them scream at clients. Both of them, the client missed a fish with a net, and the guide screamed at the client and ruined the client's day. And this was on my watch, having to fill in boats, and my favorite line was, I ain't going to say the name, but I was like, guess what? We got to talk about dates when we get in. And he's like, yeah, I need some more dates, this guy told me. I was like, well, we're going to work on that when we get in. And I didn't do it around everybody. When we got in, I was like, yeah, let's talk about them dates. And he goes, well, how many more is there? I said, none, 0, you're done. We warned you last year, you got a little mad at the guys that were doing the books then. And I said, now it's my call and you're done. And my boss, John Gilkerson, crazy son of a gun, come up to me and goes, I've been wanting to fire him for 7 years, but he's so ornery and scary, I wouldn't do it. So you just can't have that. And it doesn't, I'm telling you, one bad experience is 10 times worse when that goes home and starts spreading. Social media and everything is awesome. That guy writes something bad, or he goes and tells 3 buddies, and that gets linked. Everybody knows everybody. This world's small anymore. And you just can't have people like that even working for you. If they're screaming at customers, the old story of sitting there and having BO and never looking back and yelling at them when they need a beer and a crawler, you don't get away with that anymore because everybody knows everybody now. I mean, it just doesn't work. So hire the right people. I hire a couple of young kids. I mean, they're so energetic. It's so much fun. It reminds me of the energy I used to have. Heck, my 12-year-old did some days this year. Just put people in the boat people can like, and it'll hopefully weed out some of them ones that give the rest of us a black eye, because you will hear it. I promise you. If you're just getting in, you're going to hear, I spent 2 days with a guide. I'll never go with a guide again. There's so many good guides, but it only takes one bad day to ruin it for a lot of us. So, yeah, and that goes back to that information and contacts thing. Surround yourself with the right people. If somebody isn't being come forth or forthright with you and they're not telling you the truth, you don't have to be a jerk about it. Just don't answer that call no more. It's pretty easy. It comes across pretty fast. And you don't need to blow up on them, do any of that stuff. It'll work itself out in the wash. Karma is a strange thing, and it is really weird how it comes around, and that will. So, like I said, if they call you with 20 questions and then they got another call to take, I hope everybody's smart enough to figure out that you're not on the right contact list there. So, this is a simple one. We won't spend much time on this, but safety is... Tournament anglers, another breed. I didn't do that. I didn't beat up my equipment like they did. But when you have a guide and people say, I got in with that guide and he ran me across 4-foot waves and about threw me out of the boat, I just have never figured out how that happens. And it's something I don't even feel like I should have to talk about, but you do. I mean, I've had guides working for me that are really good, and all of a sudden we get a rough day and they decided they had to run 60 mile an hour to get to that spot 2 miles away. We are not on a timeline. If you do want to keep your timeline, give them an extra 5 minutes. Don't wreck your equipment and give them a good experience. The biggest thing on safety is slow down. I take them pontoons in 5 and 6 foot waves. I go sideways. You just be smart. I ain't going to tell everybody in here how to run a boat. But the biggest part of our running a boat, slow down. It's not a hard thing. And it's amazing how many people can't figure it out. Slow down. I do that in tournaments. Yes, that's the worst. I mean, the stories I hear from being with co-anglers, and I did it to Dave Atkinson. He was my co-angler in a championship up in Saginaw Bay, and I said, if you can handle this, we have a top 10. But I don't want to do it to you, and I really don't want to do it to my boat. He goes, you can get us in the top 10. I said, we're in the top 10, but it's going to hurt bad. And it's the worst ride I've ever taken in my life, and I will never do it again. Because we beat every boat by 10 minutes. I drove like my buddy from Pier, and man, it paid off one time, and it doesn't usually. And with guiding, it never pays off. All you do is hurt somebody, you get to call Bob on an insurance claim, and it's not worth it. Slow down. Just slow down. There's no rush in there. So, and that's the end of my whole thing here, guys. I have run a pheasant hunting business that has blown up. It gets bigger and bigger. In the summertime, guys want to do TV shows and things with me, and I do it because I know it's good. I'm terrible at social media. Ask my daughter. I'm an idiot when it comes on that. I try my best. They're going to hopefully take this over for me and keep me in the right deal there. But I keep my environment relaxed. When we're hunting pheasants, I don't yell at guys. Why would you yell at them? They're here for fun. They don't need to be screamed at to run up somewhere. When I'm fishing, if you miss my fish with a net, I am going to laugh so hard I hope you don't feel bad. There's nothing more important in that whole day than having a relaxed and enjoyable environment. That is number one in our business. It has to be fun, and if it's relaxed, it's so much more fun. People enjoy things when they're comfortable. If you're on edge, if you meet the guy in the morning and he stinks like booze and he's in a bad mood, it's not a relaxed environment. It just doesn't work. I got stories that go on and on and on, especially pheasant hunting, which is not what we're here, but where guys want to scream at my guides and my clients and tell them to run, get up there and get that. Or the only time I'll ever scream at a guy in the boat is when we're yelling, celebrating a big fish or something like that. If I have to yell at you, which, man, I don't know, I don't ever yell. If I yell, it's bad because I never yell. But if I have to yell at somebody in a boat, somebody shoot me because something's bad. I don't know what would ever cause that. So and you know what? I'm blessed. I do what I love. And like I said, if you don't love this, please don't do it. It's not, if you're fishing because, and that's I've said this for years, and I hope I don't offend too many people, but usually taxidermists and walleye fishing guides have failed at everything else. They don't have that many friends, so they do those two things, and I'm making fun of myself, and I'm making fun of a lot of my good friends, but don't do it because it's the only way to make ends meet, because you're not gonna. In the long run, you're gonna chase away more people, and you're gonna have more people talking about you, and your business isn't gonna work out anyway. If you love it and you're gonna have more fun than they do, be a guide. I mean, and you don't have to be that good a fisherman. That isn't it. It comes along with it. It really does. Baloney, Lance. I know better, but it's true. And there's nothing more enjoyable than doing what I do, especially when everything's right. And you can keep them right just by keeping the right attitude and that whole thing. I mean, what Johnny said and what everybody was saying is driven by passion. There's no other, I can't think of another job besides like playing professional football and all that stuff, and I had no chance to ever experience what the heck that's going to be like. So if you don't have passion for it, it's probably not going to work. If you do, live off that passion. I mean, get excited. I might go 3 weeks without catching a fish, and I have just as much fun. I'll tell you where it even gets more exciting on them pontoons right now. It's so chaotic on there that I have my 12-year-old as the first mate, and there's nothing more drives my passion than watching him have to run and scramble, and I get to giggle at him all day long trying to take fish off and do all that stuff. So if anybody has any questions, I probably rambled on and went in all kinds of directions. How are we doing on time? Is it right on the money? So I'm around all night tonight, guys. If you have questions, I'm way better when I can sit down and talk to you. I'd love to talk to anybody. If anybody's looking for work, I took on another lodge, so I can. If you got a pontoon or you want to come run one of mine, let me know. I might be looking for that in the next couple of years too. So don't you be grinning at me that. Yeah. I don't, to keep the experience. I try not to go much before May 15th, and then. We can talk, because I don't want to be. Don't talk to Darren, because he's wanting guys to take his fishermen so he can pheasant hunt too, like me. But no, it's a great life, guys. Don't think you're going to go get filthy rich in a couple of years being a walleye fishing guide. The pontoons and watching your spending will help you a long ways. The life you live is so much more rich and prosperous than guys making $300,000 a year sitting in an office. I can guarantee you that part. But one of my friends says, you have your priorities wrong, Chad. You need to work more and get to go fishing. I was like, you work all year to get to do what I do 7 days a week. Right. You know, you get to go do it twice. No, I got my priorities right where I want them. And man, I go home with a grin on my face most days. I'm getting to the point now where life even gets better, because you get to There's a few customers every year that wear on you, but you just look at, hey, I got 2 days left. I got 1 day left. And then you pat them on the back and tell you, great to see you next year. And you got it over.
I do my bad trips in 5-minute increments.
If I,
I make 5 minutes.
yeah, there you go.
So I'm in Detroit, I rent a house with 2 other fishermen, and I come back and they go, how'd your day go today? I had a 5 more minute day.
5 more minute day.
They know I had a bad trip. I figured I'd do it in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I always pray for the wind on them days. And you don't, I mean, I still talk, but I can't hear so much and it works out. And you know what? Some of them guys, I just had one pass away and God rest his soul because I would have kicked him out. But like in 2007, 8, 9, it was tough. We had, I mean, business was okay, but when the economy crashed, we lost quite a few groups and I needed who could come. And he doubled his days, so I had to do him like 6 times a year instead of 3 times a year. And I went to his funeral, and I love the man today, but to put up with him for 8 hours in a boat was about like a Cuban prison sentence. So, guys, thank you for showing up. I never dreamt that many people would want to listen to a redneck from South Dakota, but I hope I gave you something that'll be productive in the future for you. So thanks a lot, guys.